Hello friends, welcome to English Shorthand class. Ready? 1, 2, 3, start. As the leaders of 7 nations, the US, Germany, the UK, France, Canada, Japan and Italy meet in Cornwall in southwest England, they would be marking the 47th edition of the Group of 7 Summit. Besides the international milieu in which this summit is being conducted, the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, its significance lies also in who is not attending the summit, former US President Donald Trump. The G7 prides itself as a group of nations that steadfastly promote liberal democracy and enjoy economic prosperity, which they seek to institutionalize through multilateral cooperation. When Mr. Trump was at the helm in the US, his transactional approach to international relations showed disdain for multilateralism, evidenced in particular in the way he pulled the US out of the Paris Accord and openly complained about the summit itself being outdated. The current president of the US, Joe Biden, has sought to reorient his country's policy towards multilateralism, which includes closer coordination with traditional allies in the global north, and this sets the stage for a renewed emphasis of purpose for the G7 as they meet in Cornwall. Already the finance ministers of the G7, who had met on June 4 to 5 in the run-up to the summit, had agreed to backing a minimum global tax rate of 15% for multinational corporations, thereby setting the stage for MNCs to pay a fairer share of taxes in jurisdictions where they make money and profits, rather than playing governments in a race where they will compete on who will tax them the least and allowing MNCs to take advantage of tax havens, even considering the fact that the tax rate of 15% is low. According to some critics, Mr. Biden had himself proposed 21%. This move will herald corrective steps that could benefit both large and medium economies. The US in particular is desperate to shore up its revenues as its government announced big spending plans to tide over the economic crisis wrought by the pandemic. The Biden administration has hinted that it could gain nearly $500 billion in tax revenue over a decade if the global minimum tax idea comes to pass. More steps remain for this to become reality. The G7 countries would have to convince other nations in the broader G20, which includes China, India, Russia, and South Africa. According to the UK-based tax justice network, India suffers an annual loss of $10 billion due to tax laws on MNCs globally, and countries such as India should also agree to this deal, but getting a sign-in from others such as Ireland, which benefits from lower taxes on MNCs, will not be easy. Even within the US, where President Biden's power to get legislation passed rests on a razor-thin majority at the Senate and House of Representatives of Congress, the going would not be easy, as the Republican Party is loath to taxing corporations. Yet for the G7 to have made a global minimum tax a possibility was a multilateral breakthrough of sorts for cooperation among these nations. Despite its collectively large economies and a commitment to liberal democratic values, the G7 is no longer the behemoth that it was. Formed in 1975 in the aftermath of the 1973 oil crisis, the G7 then collectively produced 70% of the world's GDP, a number that has dropped to 40% as the Economist points out. The larger G20 has become a more relevant multilateral body due to the inclusion of economies such as Brazil, China, India, and South Africa, but the ability of the G7 summit to set the tone for cooperation on global issues has not diminished.